Well, special edition of Pledge Watch this beautiful evening, even as the world continues to deal with this pandemic. Indeed, a global fight that has got almost everybody flat-footed and every other country trying to figure out how best they'd be able to deal with this. And tonight on Pledge Watch, we want to take a look at what the government has given us promises or pledges on how best they can deal with COVID-19. And the question that we ask is, how actionable are the plans that the government has set? And of course, we've seen the sitting today by Senate in regard to some of the proposals that are supposed to be brought on board. So at least we are able to deal with this as a country. But then again, they acknowledge that so much still needs to be done. Indeed, the government has not done, what is expected. So of course, what can we do at our very own individual perspective? And most importantly, what other things should the government do towards ensuring that we are able to deal with this every other day? And the argument on ground, you go on social media, everyone is sort of sad at how, of course, the government is dealing with this. But at what point then should we come in, and why should we keep pointing fingers at the government? And I think the tone or the narrative should now change, and we call upon ourselves towards ensuring that indeed, whatever it is, the directive the government has given, we should abide by that. Welcome on board. My name is Linda Alela. It's always a pleasure to do this with you. And like I said, it's a special edition, a little bit different from the pledges where we bring Mheshimiwas on board. But then again, we also have, special guests. Today we'll be having two guests. One of them is, of course, politician, Dr. Justice Juma, who will be joining me right after this, of course, after the introduction. He is the leader of Justice and Freedom Party, and of course, he'll be taking us through what he thinks and what indeed other parties should be doing towards ensuring that they hold the hand of the government towards making it a better situation right here in the country. So welcome on board. It's always a pleasure to have you joining us, doing this with Anne as my sign language interpreter. And let's kick start the program as early as now. And going to you, Daktari, I know you're on standby, and of course on the other side we're trying to keep that distance that is indeed necessary. Good evening, and thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, Linda.
And I think we go straight to it, and we ask at this particular point, Daktari, as a leader of, another political party, the biggest question then would be, where do you people come in towards ensuring that, you hold the hands of the government and the hands of the people of Kenya towards ensuring that we are able to deal with this pandemic? I mean, Kenyans are desperately and direly looking up to the leaders towards ensuring that they are able to salvage this for us.
This pandemic is not new to our country alone. And my prayer and solace and comfort goes to those who are affected, and even the families who have lost their loved ones. Receive our condolences, and please don't think you are alone. We are together with you. And Linda, the steps that are being taken in Kenya, these are steps that are taken all over the world. And we've seen the way they are happening, and where we come in and talk with our government, because government, as we're talking right now, is the one in charge of various machineries which can help us handle this pandemic in an effective way. Though the steps that they've taken, there are steps that are also being taken elsewhere. And the government can compare notes and pick the relevant steps that actually are relevant to our society. And as we take these steps, we also need to review them and evaluate their successes. Failure to have successes, like we have lockdowns. It is not fun for people to be locked in their places in the night. There are a number of paradoxes that comes with it. But the intention is for us to defeat this pandemic. And if that is not enough, then night quarantines, then still it is wise to reconsider other alternative mechanisms to make sure that we deal with this pandemic and address it in a way that can also render solutions to help the citizens, because there's a lot of paradoxes that the citizens are going through as we're talking right now.
All right, Doc, before we even proceed to that, and of course looking at some of these other options or policies that will be brought on board that you are looking at, I mean, as it stands, the number has hit 59, 9 more cases reported. And of course, during the proceedings by the Senate today, acknowledgement that indeed so much still needs to be done by the government. What does it speak to the common mwananchi who's looking up to the leadership?
Well, the common mwananchi is afraid and terribly scared. And the worst that any other leader would do right now to Kenyan citizens is to scare them further. These numbers you're talking about are not tomatoes or potatoes. These are human beings. These are human beings who, as we're talking right now, cannot be visited by their loved ones. They are completely isolated in environments where they have no control. The psychological trauma that comes with it, it is not fathomable. Right. And I would, by all means, encourage those who are in these situations to go through this knowing that you're not alone. And we've seen people who have gone through them and actually came out due to the care that they are given. And I know the government has been in the forefront, especially when they identify cases, they get them and put them in isolation. Though we know that the government, as it stands right now with its capacity, majorly would act on reaction basis, but might not do much to do prevention. And this is where we come to reality as the citizen. We have both individual responsibility as well as national responsibility. Right. And the individual responsibility is where now you and me take measures to not be in that statistics. Yes, they have, through algorithm, come out with various numbers, where somebody is suggesting that in come April we might have 1,000, or end of April we might have 10,000. Well, according to the global trend, that's possible. But this trend can be stopped, Linda. Right. And how to stop this trend is what now we are calling leaders to come out. You can't leave it to Jubilee government alone.
Ironically, Dr. Ari, allow me to cut you short. Right. And we have seen this. However much Kenyans would be willing to abide or to go, of course, by what the president has declared or maybe the government has declared, it becomes almost impossible for them based on the kinds of situation in the country. But before we even go to that, you are talking about leaders coming out, you know, sort of to help the executive in addressing this. But you realize that a majority of the leaders, those in government, opposition, and of course, even some of you who are party leaders or members of respective parties in the country have resorted to going to social media to echo their sentiments, to complain and to point fingers at the government. Again, what does this mean, of course, when Kenyans are looking at the very same leaders towards ensuring that at least something is done? And what equally does it speak, especially for the leaders who are within government, going to social media to rant? Those
leaders should be castigated with measures that they deserve. Those who fearmonger and spread rumors among the citizens, they should be dealt with. And there, I think the arm of the law should take effect. Right. This is not the time we are going to scare our own citizens. Linda, the future generation will judge us on how we handle this situation. And they'll learn from us how we, it will go down in history, how we handled a crisis. I know various countries are in this. We don't have to handle it the way they're handling. If some are driven by fear, not all of us are. These are the moments where our our faith is tested, our resolve actually is pushed to the corner. And the best that we can do is inspire each other and have hope, and hope that can heal somebody who is stricken down in the bed. Because around 80% of human ailments normally is psychological or emotional. And if you strengthen somebody's emotion, their immunity, the chances of their immunity withstanding the attack, or especially these viral issues, are very high. But if you now diminish that 80%, actually you make the society be very vulnerable. And these are where we're coming out and telling leaders, such type of leaders, and citizens, I think this also has exposed the type of leaders who probably we might have gotten without proper evaluation. This is the time that you see what they're made of. When you are at catch-22 like this,
right.
when you are pressed to the wall, when you are down in that bed, what do? I'm here as Justice and Freedom Party to tell you that we are with you. You're not alone. We will look for you. We will reach out for you. We will make sure we support you and encourage you.
Right.
What we are pushing the government to do right now is come up with measures that are relevant, measures that can address the paradoxes that we are having. There are individuals who cannot go to work. Actually, they've lost their salaries.
Right.
How are they going to continue earning their living?
Hence our question today, Dr.
Right.
Yes, we see government making pledges and making promises and making of, coming out with, what we would call measures. But then the question would be, how actionable are some of these measures that we're having right now, knowing very well that still we are within the third world aspect. And then again, yes, this is a global pandemic and, sort of more or less the same measures that are being implemented across other countries. Yes,
there are other countries which actually have gone ahead and having direct support to their citizens. And actually, these are some of the issues which the government would have considered. Yes, we advise the government to form a committee
right.
which can look at this current situation and even beyond the current scenario. Because once this is over and done with, where will we begin? And it requires very good, astute Kenyans, very smart, intelligent Kenyans. And we have so many who are even best in the world to come up, to set up that committee and review and look at mechanisms which can help Kenya come out of this thing victoriously. What will we need to do? I saw there was an appointment of a gazettement of a committee that was appointed yesterday,
right.
led by the chair lady and a number of eminent Kenyans.
Yes.
But Mr. President, I think there we still challenge you, because some of those are the CEOs who have laid off Kenyans who have gone home. Because this was not the time where a company will lay off an employee.
Right.
It is very insensitive.
And I'm wondering how... It could be insensitive, Doc. It could be insensitive, but then equally something that is probably beyond them. Hence the question. And of course, we take a look at some of the promises or some of the measures that the government has put on board. For instance, the simplest of all, it's been an issue in the matatu industry. Transport has been an issue in the country. We talk about the curfew that, sort of has been criticized by many, still being challenged in court. We talk about these tax waivers that we're talking about. We talk about so much that sounds like, yes, could be a good measure towards addressing this, but almost, impossible to sort of do some of these things. Sometimes you can even think that Kenyans are hard-headed in the sense that probably they're not observing what is supposed to be done. They're supposed to be home by 7 or maybe before 7. Of course, some of them are supposed to be cleaning around and everything, but it is almost impossible and inevitable for them to be moving around. So how best then can you say that these are the best measures that have been put aboard and maybe they should be implemented as expected by the government?
This is why the measures were to be very well informed, actually in reality to the state of the citizens. Because some actually don't even have those homes to go back to. How will you sort them out?
Right.
There are those who feed their family on hand to mouth on a daily basis. Actually, what they get can only push them for a month.
Right.
How do you help such people? And you're telling matatu person to lower fare or to carry less, yet you have left the fuel cost to skyrocket, even at the moment when actually the global price on oil has dropped actually to the lowest level possible.
Right.
Here, our levels are still very high. These are the areas where we are telling the government to fill the people. Please, Mr. President, can you for once have the interests of Kenyans at heart? For real, as we're talking right now, there are individuals have had concrete cases of a tenant who is being chased out of their own house. Some are being auctioneered at this hour. Is it logical? And we are being left with private sectors to try and cushion us. You see, when I don't have anything against Akina Michael, Joseph, Akina Mwangi, but you see those individuals, Linda, what do they know about going without food? Even when you are constituting such a committee, you needed to have constituted a committee which represented these persons. And individuals who connects with them, who knows what they feel. But when you're setting up a committee of well-to-do of a class which for perennially has actually been the crisis that this nation always have. Always, these are the groups or the cliques who put abstraction in every project that we are having, and they end up in corruption. We need a system that goes to the ground, things that speak and resonate with the citizen. Right now, there are some states like US is literally sending money to individual accounts. Right. These are the things. We just did census the other day. Mr. President, we have Nyumba Kumi, leave alone the chiefs down. We know who Kenyans are, and we know their status. You're telling somebody in Kibera to go and self-isolate or quarantine themselves in Kibera. Right. And in those slums, some of them actually do not even have water. So how do you expect them to practice this hygiene? In my desire, we would not even, if possible, Linda, we should not lose even one Kenya. Right. But since they've been affected and these cases are going on, and sorry for the ones whom we've lost, and I know they are preparing us for further losses because of how people need to take care of themselves, which we are warning them over and above as we talk with the government. Take your own primary individual measures. Right. Clean yourself. Keep distance. Avoid crowded areas. If possible, masks are around 50 bob or 100 bob, if you can afford. But the government should have come in to subsidize those things, make them available.
Speaking of which, then one would ask, we're talking about setting up committees, sort of being set up from yesterday, and even Senate, during the proceedings, coming out with proposals on how, the formation of these committees. Is it coming in a little bit too late? Looking at the cases, every other time, Kenyans have complained. Before it even got to us, Kenyans say that, the government should be a little bit careful. We proceeded and, of course, would let flights in, which is something that I hear still some are coming into the country. And one then would ask, is the government more reactionary and sort of not focused on ensuring that they prevent some of these issues prior?
That's the alarm that should inform the citizen to know that however much we are looking up to the government, you might be looking at somebody who already
has dropped you into the trouble, and of course they would not. Maybe
also is on the floor.
All right, sadly.
So you need to see mechanisms so that even as it helps us, we can help each other midway. Where we are in our Nyumba Kumis, where I stay, we've organized ourselves into the welfare of our Nyumba Kumis. Right. And as Nyumba Kumis, we are trying to look at, of course, the testing kits are a bit expensive, but even just through that, you are able to take care of your society, even before the government jump in. We don't need to wait for the government. And if we self-enforce these things, we will save so many lives. Right. We will save our lives, we'll save our children's life. And then let's turn out, especially now on those expensive kits, like testing kits. That is where the government should come in. Make them available, even if people are rotating. Let me tell you, even the numbers they're giving us, there might be those numbers based on the test they're doing on the random sampling. Right. But if you were to test people, everybody, American numbers shot up. They skyrocketed when they decentralized testing to everybody. Right. Because now they are testing everybody and they're isolating where people are. States like Israel, they took mechanisms to make sure that according to them, they're giving them 30 days, themselves 30 days, to make sure that they arrest all those who are tested, quarantine them, and release all the healthy people back to the economy, so that the economy may run. And those are the measures we expected the government to
have taken. Well, the testing aspect still remains a challenge, because then you realize that only 3 counties are in a position to be able to conduct some of this testing, which again puts us at that particular point where we say, it's a catch-22. But even overlooking that and coming to what you had mentioned earlier on about the leadership and how they should limit, the information that they're disseminating to the people, whether it's via social media or not. But then again, there's been talk that a lot of stuff that is being done by the government is being shrouded in so much secrecy. Hence, probably some of the leaders seeing the essence of coming out to speak to the Kenyans and telling them the truth. And this has been the gospel of the day a couple of times, where you see that, yes, so much information is being hidden from the common mwananchi, but at least someone from within comes out and, spew this to the people, or maybe just sort of decides to, let the people know that this is what is happening. Sometimes the government would dispute, but eventually it comes out to be the case. Then should we squarely blame the leadership, or maybe some people who are coming out to almost try and dish out this truth?
Well, when it comes to issue of life and death, I'm sure right to life is enshrined in the Constitution. And anyone playing with another person's life, there are court of laws. whether you're a government or whether whoever you are, know that you'll answer. So if you are shrouding it in secrecy, if the intention is to save more life, fair enough.
Okay.
But if the intention is to keep people ignorant, whereas they're getting infected in measures that they could have controlled, then the buck stops with you. You will still answer to this. But information, the way they've so far been relaying information, so far the government has tried its level. We give it to them. They've been updating the citizen, which is good, because if everybody were left in the dark, but also, Linda, not everybody can be communicating.
Right.
Because there's a moment where, yes, you need to control information that goes out there.
Okay.
Some are very fearful persons. Some do not have leadership quality. And when they expose the citizen to unnecessary fear also, I think that is really not something that should be permitted.
All right.
So we need to control and centralize our area of, a point of communication. If it is a government, but let the government relay factual information that is beneficial to the citizen.
How open is the government as it stands today to, or how much of course, of loophole is created for people in the society or other people in the society, that could be instrumental towards ensuring that at least they are able to help in the curb of this? How open, is the government towards embracing such people? When we're talking about this, I mean, of course, other party leaders or other party members, like JFP, talk about the churches and everything. Is the government giving that loophole where they can step in and, equally give a hand?
Yes, the worst thing that the government can do right now is to be a tyrant with this situation. This is not a scenario that needs tyranny or dictatorship. This is a pandemic that requires very wide consultation. Even the churches, don't think shutting those churches and keeping them in their homes is the last solution. Listen to these people. They have mechanisms of how to reach and sensitize their persons. The best implemented enforced law is self-enforcement. The moment you compel somebody, a human being have a rebellious tendency. Even if it was good for them, actually they can even choose death. I've seen a citizen who said she'd rather die outside with the corona than watching her children die of hunger in the house. And that lady just needs information. The way you disseminate that information to that lady matters a lot. So yes, the government needs to open their ears and consult wide, even when they are constituting committees like the ones they've constituted. Seriously, what did the youth do for Kenya? Why do Uhuru always have to look at these old brothers? Right. Some of them do not even have time for us to sit in a committee to address the issues that are affecting us. And yet they are vibrant Kenyans who are always connected to the people on the grassroots, people who knows where the rubber meets the road. Why don't Uhuru consider them? Okay. So we would actually reach out to the ministry, talk to us, as even political parties. Yes, Jubilee, this is not the time when we are going to have political divide. Neither is it the time where we are going to have tribal divide. This is the time to come together as one nation. This is a moment where unity should be the order of the day, so that we work together as a nation and face this thing together. Because the moment you're united, it's very easy to defeat this thing. Kenya can make history. Right. We can come out of it better than other countries. That would be our pride. Why would we deny Kenyans that? And it is a moment to write history for the next generation. We will account, and they will ask, and they will learn from us. How did our father handle it? The way they handled it, it can go in the museum that even them they can consult on the measures we took today.
All right. Okay, as we wind up with you, Dr. in a minute or so, I mean, what more can be done, again, to counter this pandemic and protect the battered economy as it stands? We're looking at a situation where we have the vulnerable in society looking up to the government for financial assistance. We're looking at the aspect where we're looking at, people who are doing businesses out here, hand-to-mouth affair, and they're scared that if we are to go for a total shutdown or lockdown, then that would mean, their life is as good as useless. I mean, what can we do towards ensuring that we stay afloat? Well,
lockdown should be done with requisite requirements and should be consultative in a manner that it should have a proper legal mechanism and be done in a manner that actually answer to the purpose. It doesn't need to defeat the purpose. That means we should have provisions certain measure of relief, whether food. There are various concessions that can take place, especially on the banks. Ask them to go easy on the landlords who are paying loan, even for just 2 or 3 months. And then landlords can be spoken to keep it easy. This is a moment when we need to love one another. If that plot is not going to have tenants, who will it serve? This is the moment when our humanity is tested. And if those measures could be communicated from above, Mr. President, Kenyans are willing and ready to help. I've seen landlords who have come out, even without being asked, and have suspended rent payment for their tenants for a period. And that's possible. So all that we need is organized relief, and especially to the most vulnerable areas, like the slums. Let's reach out to these citizens and make sure that we have concession that is going to add value to their life. And if that is done in consultative, and this can also actually address economic issues, because even at this point in time, Linda, we can still also invest in our local industries, produce this mask locally. Even the same aerators, they can be manufactured locally. The testing kits, this is the moment when the government can, and they have seen the other states have locked out their hospitals. They've locked themselves out. Here we are. These are the moments to set up instruments that can make us be equal in the face of humanity. All nations, all states are struggling to live. We don't need to survive anymore. Set up mechanisms right now that can make Kenya be a healthy nation where we have a healthy health system which can serve us for generations to come.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Of course, the conversation continues. We still continue talking about this until particularly that time where, we'll confidently say that as a nation, as a global fraternity, we've been able to battle this out. And we're going to take a short breather. We still come back with a very same question. The government pledges set on COVID-19 or to deal with COVID-19 actionable at all. And after this breather, we'll be talking about the aspect of the curfew and the damage that is brought on board and whether indeed it was necessary for us to proceed to have one, something that is still being debated in court. To take that breath, and we'll be right back after this break. Thank you so much, Dr. Justice Juma, and of course, Justice and Freedom Party leader. We get to see you after this breather. Do not turn that dial.